All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. As always, we are recording in the second quarter of Sunday Night Football. Nick Sirianni just fooled Mike McCarthy with a fake punt that I called, so I could see it coming and Mike McCarthy could not, but that's fine. Cowboys up 10-0. We are almost there. Today we're going to recap the Sunday games. We'll talk about the Week 15 openers and then close out with the Monday Night Football double header. Drew, any big takeaways from today?
Great day, Jay.
Good day.
This time of year, we're 14 weeks into the season. The conventional wisdom says that markets are tight. It's tough to find winners. And so I take great delight in having a day where basically every break went my way. Very outstanding day of football in terms of outcomes here. I think the only thing that could have gone a little bit better is if the Rams had found a way to get it done in overtime against the Ravens, or maybe at the end of regulation a little bit more. I don't know. Read the room, guys. This is important. Score a touchdown here. This is you don't really want to go to overtime as you came into this game as 7.5-point dogs. But McVay, I thought, did a really masterful job. Otherwise, and yeah, so we were a Rams short away from having just an absolute slam dunk of a day. The AFC playoff picture is like very compelling right now. I don't even really know where to start, man. There are so many fun angles to talk about in terms of how the AFC will come down the stretch here. The Bills beating the Chiefs being maybe the most important outcome for like the grand scheme of things when it comes to futures markets. I thought MVP is largely going to be probably tilted towards Dallas after Dallas takes care of business, hopefully. But there were some absolutely insane games. There were some absolutely insane markets. We had an opener in total go from in Chicago go from 44 to 39 back out to 44, and it landed in the middle. This absolute absurd outcomes where we get to halftime, it's 0-0 in Minnesota versus the Raiders, and the commentary is like, this is the first day since 1988 where two NFL games have gone to halftime 0-0. And wouldn't you know it, 3 points ultimately decided that game. So it is conceivable that you bet Raiders +3 today. Your team got shut out and you pushed somehow, which I think has to be a first. All that said, it was just a delightful day of football. And I think, ultimately nothing much really changed in terms of my understanding of these teams or expectation as we come down the home stretch. What was the most impactful outcome as far as you looked at the board today?
Well, let's stay with that Minnesota-Vegas game for a little bit because I watched an ungodly amount of that game. And,
oh no, why?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of there, and I happened to watch a lot of it. And I have some interest in Minnesota doing well this season, so which I don't feel good about after that game, even though they got the win. So, firstly, Nick Mullins is no good. He's, to my mind, much worse than Josh Dobbs. And I understand that he moved the ball a little bit, but he moved the ball a little bit because he threw a pass to TJ Hawkinson, his first pass of the game, which probably should have been picked, and it went for a long gain because it was tipped. And then the next pass he threw also should have been picked. He took a delay of game when they're at the end trying to kick a field goal. Just all a mess. I don't think that Vikings team is doing anything if Nick Mullins is the quarterback. They're probably not doing anything if Dobbs is the quarterback, but I don't know. Justin Jefferson seems like his injury isn't that serious, and like there is optimism that he's going to be right to play on Saturday. So we'll see if that changes anything for their outlook. But anyway, we're probably the only show that's going to lead off with Minnesota Vegas.
I got to tell you what, I'll tell you this. If you had two choices and it was Minnesota Vegas and Denver Chargers, and you elected to watch Minnesota Vegas, you made the right choice, because I will tell you what, the Easton Stick experience stinks. It is not good. And Denver just in general is a tough hang. The LA Chargers, I guess, yeah. In the grand scheme of things, if you didn't already know, the Chargers were eliminated. Now they are. Like, I would guess this is a multi-week injury for Herb, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, he's fractured his right finger. That's his throwing one. He was having trouble with his fractured finger on the left hand. So seems like he is probably done. I'm getting a lot of texts about Sean Payton, Coach of the Year.
Oh, no.
They're 7-6.
Oh,
They just
no.
beat Eastern Stick. They lost to the Texans last week. They were expected to be an 8 or 9 win team, and if they run the slate, they'll get to 11-6. Like, yeah, that might be a case that can finish like 6th. But I don't know, unless I'm missing something. I don't see Sean Payton Coach of the Year at all. I mean, there is a chance that he'll have an okay case, but the idea that it has the ceiling to be the number one winning case is something I don't get. As Dak Prescott pass over the middle.
Let's do a little Coach of the Year sidebar because that is fun. We can't really comment on MVP right now. Sorry, guys. If you're listening at home and you want us to really make some MVP commentary, we can. The Niners took care of business. Funny though that it was a relative surprise that Drew Lock played today, and didn't matter. He still covered the closing number. He looked great. Yeah, it was a relative surprise that there was one of the relative surprise that Trevor Lawrence played today. Didn't matter.
Physically,
Browns, yeah, he looked fine. Brown's still covered. like I don't know that I understand how we live in a world where the starting quarterback can be an uncertainty on the eve of these games, and this late in the season, we know so much about these teams, and it doesn't end up mattering like that. It's a little bit breaking my brain. But the Coach of the Year discussion is fun. I do not think Sean Payton is alive whatsoever, but it's important to talk about because Man Campbell and the Detroit Lions left the door wide open for anyone to steal the NFC North. He is now for sure not going to set the record for wins for a Detroit franchise, and he may not win his division. And if you watched any of that Lions-Bears game, the Lions don't look great. And we had kind of been sounding the alarm bells for this team now several weeks, going on a couple weeks in a row. They are in deep trouble.
Yeah, I think, look, if Kirk Cousins was healthy, I mean, you could make the argument that the Lions are playing the fourth best football in the NFC North at the moment.
I would agree.
The Bears, and look, ultimately, I think they're probably still slightly better than the Bears just because the Bears' offense has a certain lowered ceiling. But the way the Bears are playing on defense, I mean, they're right there with Detroit. I didn't really understand why that line, we talked about it this time last week, that line wasn't going to close 5. And sure enough, it didn't. But no, Coach of the Year is a fun one. I think lots of chaos today where, coming into today, I would have had 3 of the 4 favorites as Campbell, Ryans, and Steichen, and they all lose. I think now, as we sit here, that Mike McDaniel would be my favorite for Coach of the Year, particularly with Kansas City losing, and now the 1 seed being in Miami have it in their own destiny. They control their destiny to get the 1 seed. Now they'll have to win a game in Baltimore to do that, most likely. But he would be my favorite, but I don't think he's particularly short. No. Kyle Shanahan is very live for that award now, particularly if Dallas closed this game out and the Niners control their own destiny for the 1 seed. At that point, I think that Shanahan at 14-3, ending the season on a 9-game winning streak, being viewed as clearly the best team in football and kind of probably being viewed as just the best overall coach in football. Yeah. I think that is extremely live. It just brings into play like weird outcomes. Like now, if Matt LaFleur runs the slate, before today, he probably had to dodge. All right, well, if LaFleur runs the slate, he needs Ryans to take another 1 or 2 losses. He needs Steichen to take 2 losses to win. He needs Campbell to not run the slate. And all of a sudden, now he's much closer to those things happening. Where now, if you told me that Matt LaFleur runs the slate and finishes 11-6, and that potentially now wins the division over Detroit, then I think he's probably odds on to win Coach of the Year. Like, he's certainly very close to it anyway. So a lot of weirdness in that award. But if I had to bet my life on someone right now, odds agnostic, it would be Mike McDaniel. And I think the market is probably going to reopen with Dan Campbell still as the favorite. And I don't think that's justified.
Really, really good breakdown. All I can add, I don't think that McDaniel is the bet at odds. That price. I think it's LaFleur.
Sure.
And I think LaFleur and the Packers getting the 3 seed is very, very, very real. Obviously, they have yet to play. They're playing the Giants. They're touchdown favorites. Like, we have a long way to go. But today's outcomes were extremely, extremely positive for the Packers getting into the playoffs, which in the blind helps LaFleur. But if he wins the division over Dan Campbell, makes it that much more likely, in my opinion.
It's also the case now where if Campbell, it's so unlikely that he would run the slate, particularly because he's got a game at Dallas on the schedule. Yeah. But even if he wins the division now, it's going to be at 12-5 or 11-6 with a tiebreak over LaFleur. And at that point, I think people will still have Thanksgiving in their minds a little bit, and how the Lions have ended the season with a relative thud, and how the Packers would be on an 8-game winning streak. And so now I think if LaFleur runs the slate, he wins the head-to-head with Campbell, even if he doesn't win the division. So, all good things for Matthew.
Begs the question, Lions on the road at Green Bay in the 3-6 matchup are 3.5-point dogs? Like, what's the number?
Yeah,
it's gonna be a field goal, right?
Yeah, well, it depends. One, is Jair Alexander ever going to play football again? Like, this guy's been...
Does it matter?
5 weeks.
They're playing so well without him.
The locker room.
They're playing well without him.
I guess they are. And then also, like, Frank Ragnow's injured. Alan McNeil injured as well. Detroit will get some guys back. Detroit are better than what they've shown. Detroit have a really good offense when they're fully healthy. And Jared Goff doesn't have to go outdoors for the rest of the season now. Just gets to play every remaining game in a dome. So I still think Detroit will win the division, but the door is open. Another quick few points as we go through the slate. One, Myles Garrett is back. He is fully healthy. He was an absolute monster today. He didn't register a sack outside of the 2-point that he got the sack on at the end, which doesn't count as a stat, but 3 quarterback hits, tackle for loss. He looked super explosive. We'll see what Parsons does here, but he would be my defensive player of the year favorite after that. Rams, Baltimore. Well, actually, let's hit that in the opening, because I got a point on the Rams. We'll come back to that one. But other takeaways, I thought that, Purdy was magnificent, 368 yards, ridiculous. I think the Jets probably have the best defense in football as well.
Yeah. I can't wait to dive more into the Jets. That defense is just special. I think at least the Baltimore Ravens effectively won the AFC North today. I think the 49ers, maybe actually won the NFC West. I don't know that it's mathematically clinched, but they did. Those two divisions, I think, are clinched. Everything else is wide open, Jay. Like, even the Chiefs in the AFC West all of a sudden isn't that crazy to see a way out. Would you believe in any universe that the Denver Broncos are 1 game behind Pat Mahomes right now? How is that possible?
I can't have this. A lot of Chiefs division stuff, which should be over, and somehow it is not over. Sorry, the Niners did actually clinch the NFC West.
Oh, they did? That's an actual clinch?
Well, if the Seahawks, I guess, have they clinched over the Rams? I guess they must have clinched, because they've got 3 losses and the other teams have 7 apiece. So that looks like it's done. Yes, with the Chiefs, I think they're going to get bailed out because they have a super easy schedule remaining, particularly given that I guess Justin Herbert's probably not going to be there the final week of the season, because the Chargers won't have anything to play for at that point. So, New England, Las Vegas, Cincinnati in KC. That might be more tricky if it was in Cincinnati, and then finishing with the Chargers. I suspect the Chiefs will be okay, but the 1 seed's gone for them, more or less.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You don't think Easton Stick learns how to play football by the time we get to week 18? Really, the question is, will interim coach Kellen Moore, will he elevate Easton Stick to the level of where they can even compete in that game? Because the Chargers are an absolute disaster right now. And it is wild, though, that basically the way the outcomes worked out today, the NFC South could not be more wide open. The AFC South looks wide open. The AFC East is not decided. The Bills are coming. Now, none of nothing, obviously. Tomorrow's game, I don't think, is ultimately going to matter, because these next 2 games for the Dolphins look very, very winnable. But the AFC East, the AFC South, the AFC West, all still relatively in the balance. NFC East, NFC North in the balance, and NFC South wide freaking open.
Yeah, Yeah, let's not dwell on the NFC South. Let's get to some Week 15 openers. But first, this Sunday is an AFC battle with playoff implications when Lamar Jackson and the Ravens travel to Jacksonville for a date with the Jags. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. Lamar Jackson edging his way back into the MVP conversation today, or I think that now he will. I think he will win that award if he beats San Francisco and Miami back-to-back in Week 16 and 17.
Possible.
And Dak takes a loss somewhere along the way. I mean, Dak might need to take 2 losses for Lamar to win, but he's back in it. Week 15 openers. So the one, Drew, that leapt off the page to me is I think the Rams should be bigger than 6.5-point favorites home to the Commanders, where I think – and to circle back to that Rams-Ravens game, and the Ravens defense didn't have a chance for a lot of this game. The Rams just moving the ball at will. Stafford had some bad throws and some bad misses, and he really should have ended the game at the end of regulation where he basically threw a pick that required a miracle breakup in the end zone. I was like, oh, what are you doing, Matthew? But I thought he was excellent. I thought the fact that Cooper Kupp just looked like 2021 Cooper Kupp again, opposite Puka Nacua, who looked like he was done for the season last year and now is completely fine. Like that offense is just rolling on all cylinders.
Yeah, I had a lot of Rams today, most of it on the spread. I was hopeful that they would win because I have some Rams futures, and I would really, really like to see the Rams in the playoffs, not I guess right now it would be over the Vikings. Please, if the Vikings get in the 2-7, I mean, help us all.
I think the Rams are the 4th best team in the NFC right now.
We agree. You can actually, we could have a fight. Is it the Rams or the Packers? Like that's the fight. Like, I mean, honestly, like they're both dynamic offenses and then defenses that are good, but do have some limitations. Lamar Jackson was absolutely incredible today. Yes. I honestly don't think you can understate how magnificent he was. 3rd and 1 million in the red zone at the end of the game, needing the touchdown to go ahead. He comes up with that play to Zay Flowers. I did think that both of the touchdowns in the first half of the Ravens were more of a factor of blown coverages by the Rams and some miscommunication and just some sloppy defense that they finally got tuned up in the second half. But still, it was an incredible game from him, his best of the season. And I think ultimately the Rams are a dynamic powerhouse. There were a couple of plays in the first half where Puka Nacua took some tough shots. One couple kind of looked like headshots. And as a Rams backer, you see Puka Nacua take those shots, and the state that the Cooper Kupp hasn't been as productive, and they're relatively thin. And you're like, oh my god, if they lose Puka Nacua, like this team is in trouble. But Cooper Kupp showed up. Kyren Williams was unreal. If they had Tyler Higbee, I think the Rams win this game, and they will have Tyler Higbee down the stretch. So, Rams are still a factor. Rams should be bigger favorites over the Commanders. I don't think the Commanders are playing for much. This is now roster. Yeah, they're playing to lose, and they're playing to evaluate the deeper parts of their roster and their secondary, and in particular, actually, the entire defense is just an absolute clown show. So the Rams should be able to light them on fire. So that's already getting bet. Actually, it's out to 7. If you can find a 6.5, I think that's a fair play.
Yep. On Nacua dropped a wide open pass over the middle late in the game, which that may be thinking that it's a little bit in his head, the hits that he's been taking the past couple of weeks. But just quickly on Lamar Jackson, who I don't think will have any pathway to being the deserving MVP winner. I think his numbers are just too far off the pace when you compare him to Brock Purdy or to Dak Prescott or even to Josh Allen, to be honest. But when you watch a game like today, you can see why people would buy into giving it to him, even if he doesn't have the stats. And the reason why, there's just some visual experience about watching Lamar Jackson where there is just a different scope of possibility on every play with him that just doesn't exist for any other quarterback. Even Mahomes, there is a certain confidence that you have in Lamar on 3rd and 17, which I guess it's difficult because Mahomes just doesn't have any weapons. So you don't feel like he's going to convert it because you feel like someone's going to drop a pass. But with Lamar, when it was 3rd and 17 at the end of the game, it didn't feel dire. and it would have felt dire for, I think, every other quarterback in football outside of Josh Allen. And so Lamar, there's just something about the way he plays that resonates. And he was, and again, like you can see why, like his passer rating today was 92.8. It wasn't great. His QBR was 70.4, which is really good. But again, this isn't, Brock Purdy level stuff or anything. But just watching the game, he looked magnificent. And it felt like he won them the game.
As someone with real big boy stakes on the Rams, every single time he had the ball in his hands, I was terrified.
It's petrifying.
It's terrifying. And like he's having an off-ish year, but it doesn't matter. Like he was so magnificent in the high leverage moments of that game. It was something to see.
Yep.
And he's a special player. He really is.
So other week 15 openers, Raiders -3 home to the Chargers is a very depressing thing to say out loud after a team got shut out against a team that sucks. And is somehow a 3-point favorite, perhaps not unjustifiably, though, if you watch any Eastern stick. In terms of other lines, I don't think the Lions should be 4.5-point favorites over the Broncos. I think that should be a touch smaller. I think that the Titans-Texans line right now is just kind of a fake placeholder line. What I'm looking at is pick. It's ranged from pick to Titans -2 even. I would just always bet on teams doing the wrong thing in these spots and just rushing Stroud through concussion protocol. And I would guess that he
Please
plays,
don't.
just because that's how these things tend to go. If the Niners are able to rush Brock Purdy through concussion protocol in 6 days to face the Bengals, I'd guess that Stroud's probably going to play.
I mean, nothing's more impressive than the Pittsburgh Steelers rushing TJ Watt through concussion protocol in 6 minutes, Jay. That's the worst one yet. That was horrific. Okay, so fun openers that you all brought up. I mean, the Las Vegas Chargers on Thursday Night Football is interesting. Like, I guess the opening total here, 24. That seems fair. Oh wait, it's 30. It's 34. Oh, it's 34. Oh my God, Easton Stick versus. Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell? Are we going to go back to Jimmy G at some point? I mean, the Raiders' offense was useless today. Is it going to be Jimmy G?
Well, I mean, we should, but I don't think they will. I guess maybe getting shut out by the Vikings will necessitate a change, but I wouldn't be holding my breath necessarily.
Chargers defense is playing better. Raiders defense actually might be like legitimately good. Like, Raiders defense is the top half in terms of EPA per play on the season now. And if you look at like the last 8 weeks, they're like good. Like, I don't know where this came from.
Yeah, I mean, Max Crosby is amazing. He's amazing. Like, Max Crosby is the top 5 defensive player in football. I don't think there's any really disputing that. But I don't know. The second, he doesn't have much help, but they keep on grinding out results. And to be fair, like Josh Dobbs had games where he was useful on offense for the Vikings. And he's just been atrocious against the Bears and the Raiders. So I guess Raiders -3 is probably the play, just because there is scope that Jimmy could be the quarterback. And if Jimmy's the quarterback against Easton Stick, that line should be like 6, right? At that point, like Jimmy's a real quarterback and Easton Stick's a pretend quarterback.
Yeah, the number I like the most, and this isn't an emergency. You don't have to run to get this. It'll be here all week because, actually, maybe not. You can get a relatively decent stake right now on Baltimore -3 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars defense is paper, guys.
Yeah, it's
paper.
It's not good. Yeah.
David Njoku and Joe Flacco made them look silly today. I think specifically the way the Ravens are schemed, the way that they're kind of finding it, honestly, the way Odell Beckham Jr. created separation. Like, actually, like I said it already, but the blown coverages felt like more of the story than the Ravens offense. I shouldn't say that because that does actually take away from the double move that Odell Beckham made on his touchdown in the first half. Like, that was like vintage best of Odell Beckham type of film. The fact that he can do that this year at this stage in his career is noteworthy. I think they're going to Baltimore is going to burn Jacksonville to the ground in this game, which opens the door for Houston, I think, to make their name in the AFC South. The fact that Indianapolis, the fact that like Gardner Minshew is who we thought he was in the game against Cincinnati, and now he's got to go up against Pittsburgh. Should Pittsburgh really be catching 3 points there with Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, whoever takes the start there? I kind of like the team getting extra rest. on Saturday. Pittsburgh Steelers getting 3 in some spots. The rest of the games either have teams that are currently playing, which matter, like, i.e., like, I guess, let's say this game plays out. Dallas, throttles the Eagles, knocking on wood. What kind of number do we see against Buffalo?
I think they're the same team, right? I think they're very evenly rated, and it's home field. So I think Buffalo -1.5. I think that would be fair. We'll see what happens with Buffalo's injuries. Micah Hyde left the game.
What
Dallas comes out.
Yeah, what were your takeaways broadly about the Buffalo Kansas City game?
Same stuff as always. It was kind of the manifestation of both of those teams in one game, where Buffalo just do a lot of dumb stuff, but they have so much talent, and Josh Allen is so good, and the defense is now, I think, in a much better state than it was, say, 5-6 weeks ago, where now it's a perfectly solid unit, and the offense is a top 3, top 4 unit. And then the Chiefs, I thought it was a better showing than I expected from the Chiefs defense, and they got the stop at the end they needed. But the offense, there's just no ceiling there whatsoever, and it's just so fitting that, I mean, it is properly descended into farce now that the wide receiver stuff, like, it's just unbelievable. Night one it's literally started on the first day of the season with Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney's clown show against the Lions. Everything that happened against the Eagles, between Justin Watson being allergic to catching passes and MVS on the drop, at the Green Bay game, with the drops in that one, and then this one with Kadarius Toney lining up offsides, which is entirely his fault. I don't care, Andy Reid, if you're supposed to get a heads up, just don't line up offsides. That's the rule.
So how dare they not tell you you're breaking the rules, guys?
Yeah, the most famous, that'll be the most famous Chiefs offside since D Ford in the AFC title game. If you remember that one against the Patriots, which cost me a lot of money.
Why did you bring that up?
Game ago, Brady would have one less Super Bowl if D Ford was 2 inches, 1 inch behind the line.
I just got instantaneous heartburn. Oh my God. Oh, that one was brutal. The funny thing about the officiating in Bills Chiefs was, as a Bills backer, for 3.5 quarters, I was screaming about the refs the other way. Like, because those calls happened at the end of the game and they were against Kansas City, the Kansas City fans feel jobbed. Well, believe me, you got a favorable whistle for a lot of that game. Like, that was not a lopsided or decided outcome. Sorry, guys. But yeah, no, I thought Buffalo did not meet my expectations today. Personally, I thought their offense was going to be able to do more. And I actually am now back more like middle of the week this week, Jay, or actually we did when we wrapped up our week, and the Bills money line, this is my favorite play of the week, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I kind of buried my concerns about Sean McDermott and his lack of aggressiveness with the lead. And that felt present today, like very present. And I still will probably play the Bills against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are going to be in an absolutely dreadful spot after, this game against, all-time rivals, getting a little redemption. But I will tell you, the two things that caught me by surprise in the Bills Chiefs game were the Chiefs effectively won in the trenches on both sides of the ball for most of that game. And I did not see that coming. Particularly the Chiefs pass rush winning against the Bills offensive line was a surprise. So I don't know if that's something to follow, or if that had everything to do with the noise and the setting and being on the road. At home against the Cowboys, maybe it's different, but I'm lightly leaning Bills under 3.
Yep. No, I can see that. I will say with McDermott, who I think is a terrible coach, and I think he should lose his job over this season, even if they sneak into the playoffs. He should lose it even if they go on to make the Super Bowl, honestly. Like, he's done a terrible job this season. But I will say, at the end of the game, and I know Twitter was ablaze with how they didn't run the ball at the end of the game. Like, when they were in the situation where Chiefs had 2 timeouts. So if you just run the ball up the gut 3 times and kick a field goal, then Mahomes is going to have a minute 47 or whatever to be able to march down the field, only down 3. Whereas if you get a first down, then the game is over. So I was fine with them throwing the ball. You could see if would have been very Sean McDermott just to call 3 straight runs up the middle and to go absolutely nowhere. But it wasn't the prettiest game either side. Just last thing on the Colts, which you mentioned, I can't take Trubisky getting less than 3 points in that game. I understand the score was ugly, but there's some weird stuff in.
I didn't watch much of that game. I got to rewatch that game. In fairness,
I watched this strange amount of it where the Colts missed the regulation field goal. They fumbled a punt. When you look at stuff like the success rate of both teams, it was pretty even. The Colts moved the ball at will. Like they moved the ball. Cincinnati have a terrible defense, but if TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith can't go, then Pittsburgh have a terrible defense too.
That's a fair point.
I think that the Colts will be able to move the ball. And also, we talked about this last week. Like it's just a terrible matchup for the Colts. Don't have any cornerbacks. Like it's Jalen Jones, who's a 7th-round rookie, Darrell Taylor, and they're lined up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the road. And they just had no prayer, and they just got destroyed after the catch. I think my man, Juju Brents, he'll come back next week. He's their best cornerback on the outside. That'll help. They'll get EJ Speed back at linebacker. There's some chance Jonathan Taylor plays as well. I think the Colts win that game. I wouldn't be rushing to the window to back them at 2.5, but I think they win that game.
I'm pretty bummed that DJ Stroud got concussed, man. Oh, I didn't realize it was that serious.
It's not great. It was the game was over by that point as well. I mean, he's always going to be in the game at that point, but that's a tough one. But anyway.
Because it's funny because the AFC South should be a really fun handicap right now, but
I just think it's kind of not because the Jags have the tiebreak over everyone, whatever happens, and they have this Ravens game, which I think they're probably going to lose. After that, the schedule is just comically easy. It's like Bucks, Titans, and then one other easy game.
Bucks are easy or what?
True, they can lose. They're not. Okay. Jags aren't that good, so they can lose the Bucks. And
gun to head.
Texans could run the slate.
Okay, gun to head. Who wins the South? AFC South.
The Jags.
Gun to head. Who wins the NFC South?
You know what? It's a sickening answer, but the New Orleans Saints.
It does kind of seem like it, yeah.
I just got the easiest schedule. Falcons are no good. Bucks,
their defense
bounced
a little bit.
Yeah, defense is a bit better. I think the Bucks have the best team of the 3 right now, but I think that they have the hardest schedule. So Saints for me there. But good slew of depressing questions. All right, before we get to Monday Night Football this holiday season, Drew, get the fantasy fan in your life the exclusive RotoWorld Draft Guide bundle featuring expert analytics, player insights, and season-long tools. Get all 3 of the draft guides for one low price. Go to NBCSports.com/holiday bundle and use code HOLIDAY23 at checkout to receive 25% off and a $10 Fanatics e-gift card. All right. Okay. 2 games on Monday night, doubleheader. Dolphins, 14-point favorites, home to the Titans. Total is 46. Packers, 6.5-point favorites at the Giants. Total is 37. Do you have plays on either of these games?
I did not have any intention of getting involved with either of these games at all. But at current price, I don't think you can pass on the Packers. 6 right now, Jay. It's 6. And the injury report has not come in positively for them. But the injury report is also very unfavorable for the Giants right now. Tommy DeVito is getting the start. We expect Waller's probably missing. My read on all of the comments around those two is that the Giants aren't serious about trying to win football games. And I think ultimately the Packers are very serious about trying to win football games. And it kind of doesn't matter if some of these kind of brand name players who you recognize aren't available. They still have outstanding pass protection, and Jordan Love is dealing right now. So it kind of doesn't matter who he's thrown to. Christian Watson being out, I don't think is a big deal. I think Wicks is a perfectly fine option as your wide receiver 1, and Romeo Doubs is a nice wide receiver 2. Wicks is doing quite well. And honestly, there's just nothing on the defense of the Giants that scares you. Period. Like you're up against.
He's it.
Yeah, is he 100% right now? And he's up against his toughest test of the year. The interior pass protection for the Packers is outstanding. So I think 6 with the Packers. Laying it on the road stinks. Laying it in a game with the total of 37 is very, very narrow margin. It's gonna be a sweat. Like, don't get me wrong, but if I could only have one bet on these 2 games, that would be it. Right now, currently, nothing in my accounts on either of these 2. I get why Miami is drifting towards 2 touchdowns. I think that's right, but ultimately, I think there is a little bit of slippage potentially with this Miami defense. Like, you look at their advanced stats over the last 5-6 weeks, they look like the best defense in, top 3 defense in football. But no Jalen Phillips now. They lost their number 1 linebacker in Baker. At least he was 750 snaps for them this year. So it's going to matter trying to backfill Baker. And so there could be some opportunity here for the Titans to find some weird ways to score. So in the early game, or I guess they're both kicking off at the same time. I don't really understand why they're scheduling this and why we're doing this, but so be it. But in the in the game in Miami, I would lean over 46.5, and in the game in the Meadowlands, I would lean Packers at 6.
Yep, I like that. I'm with you on the Packers. I think, look, there's a chance that there's a good chance that your average football fan wouldn't be able to pick out any of Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, or Jaden Reed off of the street, and they're all good. They're all really good. Watson's really good too, and he's going to be out. But like, they have a slew of just excellent receivers, and the way that Jordan Love is playing, the way he's playing at the moment, which is, I mean, he's a top 10 quarterback on the season by EPA per play, and I think he's playing at that level, and he's trending up, if anything. So I agree there. I think with the Dolphins and Titans, my angle into that would be, like, I just don't think Tua's passing yards should be set under 300 in this game. And
that's a great call.
287.5. And I get that, we think about, he's not going to play the fourth quarter because it's a blowout, but you're allowed to accumulate 288 yards in 3 quarters.
Happens all the time.
And the one thing with this is that it's not only that he has an amazing matchup where the Titans have a great run defense and a terrible passing defense. So they will give up explosive plays through the air to the most, outside of the Niners, one of the most explosive passing teams in the league with Tyreek and Waddle. But it's also on the other side, and the fact that the Dolphins, no, I don't think they have the best defense in football, which statistically they have for a while now, to your point. But they still have a good defense, and the Titans' offense has been terrible ever since DeAndre Hopkins stopped committing offensive pass interference in Will Levis's debut against the Falcons. And so that just feeds into Tua, because I think the Titans are going to go 3 and out a lot. I don't think they're going to have much success offensively, and that's just going to give the ball back to Tua and give it back to him to accumulate passing yards. So that would be my look there, is Tua over 287.5. And I'm with you on the Packers.
What Jeffrey Simmons for sure not taking the field, do you think? He is out. That matters. Without Jeffrey Simmons, the Titans defense might be capital BAD bad.
Yep. It is not good. All right. We are done. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. And a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you tomorrow.